Hey guys, I'm back. Nothing happened to me. Just a bit of a scenery change. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm in a different room now. So this is hopefully a temporary change. Hopefully I'll get to go back to my room with this computer. But as for right now, we're having a bit of a scenery change. But what this video is about is I reread through God, the Failed Hypothesis. I read this once before, and I gotta say, this is probably the funniest book I've ever read in my entire life. I found this book absolutely hilarious. There were some good points. The author's name is... I had the cover to this, and I took it off. I always take the covers off of my my books. I don't know why. Victor J. Stenger, I believe that's how it's pronounced. He's German, or something like that. But the full title of the book is God, the Failed Hypothesis, How Science Shows That God Does Not Exist. And his preface is funny. He talks about how that previously the only way to explain God was through theology and philosophy, and it said that science could never touch God, and that's AIM, so ignore that. But what I plan on doing is roughly about second chapter. He goes into this thing called Impossible Gods, where he gives out all the problems with the Judeo-Christian Islamic, which drives me nuts. He calls it the Judeo-Christian Islamic God, which is a terrible, terrible fallacy on his part, and we'll get into that later. But what I tend to do is, there are 7 different problems that he listed, or paradoxes, or whatever you want to call them, and he says that because of these things, my God cannot exist, or our God, depending on whether or not you're a Christian with me, cannot exist. So what I intend to do is I'm going to make a video a piece for each one of these, and I'm going to crack them wide open, and hopefully by the end of this series you guys will be a bit more enlightened, and hopefully I'll learn a little something from this too. And please leave comments on the videos. Let me know what you think. So the first one states that an all-virtuous being cannot exist. He says that the Judeo-Christian God cannot exist because here's his 8-point proof. God is by definition a being God is by definition a being that which no greater being can be thought. So no greater being can be conceived than God. That's the definition of the word God. Greatness includes the greatness of virtue. Please ignore that. That's my aim. So therefore, God is a being that has Greatness includes the greatness of virtue. Therefore, God is a being that which no being could be more virtuous. But virtue involves overcoming pains and danger. Indeed, a being that can only be properly said to be virtuous if it can suffer pain or be destroyed. A God that can suffer pain or is destructible is not one at which no greater being can be thought. For you can think of a greater being, one that is non-sufferable and indestructible. Therefore, God does not exist. So we'll tackle the problems with this right here, right now. First, I don't have a huge problem with his first statement. God is by definition a being that which no greater being can be thought. Anybody can understand that. God is the greatest thing there is. That's what God means. Greatness includes the greatness of virtue. Now, like he said, virtue involves overcoming some sort of pain or some sort of danger, or coming back from the dead, regrowing a limb, surviving a near-death experience, things like that. So sorry, I do a little responding there. I don't edit these videos anymore, so you guys are getting it as it's coming to my head. So God has to be a being that overcomes these great virtues and that can overcome pain and things like that, to be virtuous. Now, since if a God had to overcome a pain or a suffering or something like that, he would not be the greatest thing that you could conceive. So, therefore, a God could never be all virtuous. an all virtuous being is completely unfathomable, which isn't entirely true, but for this statement, God cannot be all virtuous. And I have two ways of refuting this. So depending on how you see God, there are two ways to answer this question. First is that greatness, or that God by definition is a being of which no greater being can be thought. Now that depends on what you mean by great. Do you mean great as in powerful? Do you mean great as in wise? Do you mean great as in having the most great attributes and things like such? So the way I see this is, if a being is virtuous and is capable of overcoming suffering, overcoming pains, then he would be greater than a being that does not do that. Whether he can or cannot is completely out of the question, or it has nothing to do with the question. The question is, would a being be greater if it had overcome great pain and great danger than one that does not? And personally, I believe that yes. If I know two people and one of them has overcome great pain and persevered through that, I would consider him much greater than a person who had not done so. So that's the first hole in this little theory here. The second one that I have a huge problem with is he completely misses the mark with this aim at the Judeo-Christian Islamic God. Let's say that we're going with just the God of Judaism. Let's cut out the New Testament. Then this would technically hold true. If we were to take just the Islamic God, so we are claiming that the Old and New Testament are corrupted and that Allah is God, then this would also hold true. But for the Christian God, this does not hold true, because we believe that Jesus is God. And Jesus did overcome great pain, great suffering, did in fact rise from the dead, and is very virtuous. As a matter of fact, he overcame more pain than anyone could possibly fathom. He was beaten, he was scarred, and he was crucified, which is still on record the most terrible form of torture and death known to man, and then rose from the dead. So I think his attempt to shatter the Judeo-Christian Islamic God, I hate saying that. In my next video I'll cover why that's a terrible fallacy, but I'm probably running out of time. I can see my face on the screen. I can't see how much time I'm using up. But so this seems like a really missed mark. Mr. Victor, Mr. Stenger, his attempt was to prove that certain gods were completely impossible. And using several different proofs, he tried to prove that the Judeo-Christian Islamic God, beyond all reasonable doubt, must be completely impossible. And personally, I believe that he missed on this one. And all virtuous being, this is proof. If anybody wants to stop the video and read that, that's his proof. So there's someone behind me. Hello. What?
Watch the game on the TV.
Okay, well I'll be done in a moment. So I'm just finished. Yeah, you're welcome to come in here. You're not about. This is my family. To all of you who are going to watch this, that's my mother. So, okay, that is the end of my video. Next one will be following suit. It will be worship and moral agency. So look forward to that, and I'll be out with that one soon. Peace.